Welcome to another episode of Unraveling Success. I am Beth DeLaForest, and today have the pleasure of welcoming Jill Warner. Jill lives in Cannon Falls, Minnesota with her hubby, Brian, and their beautiful daughter, Isabel, and 3 dogs, which you have me beat. I have 2. Jill is the owner of Gold Door Realtors, and she's been in business for 20 years. And Jill has a lot of business experience in her past. It includes owning an insurance agency. She has been a business owner in a pizza place, a laundromat, gas station, and has done consulting and coaching and loves flipping homes and businesses. So I love that. And you are definitely multi-passionate. In her spare time, which I can't imagine you have much of, Jill enjoys hunting, fishing, traveling, and renovating. And her keys to success are growth, consistency, determination, problem solving, and finding joy and happiness, which are all amazing. So welcome today. We are so excited to hear your story, Jill. And do you want to get us kicked off with your definition of success?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me, by the way. I really thought deep into this because of the fact that I think of success very differently than I did 20 years ago. So 20 years ago, I would have thought of success as, keeping up with the Joneses, having the big house, having, money, showing things off. And nowadays, after the journey that I've been through, I think of success as putting 2 feet on the ground every day, taking a little bit of time to make sure that life is going in the correct path that it's supposed to be on, finding joy and happiness. So it's not really, I always tell even my clients, it's not about money anymore for me. I look at things from the perspective of, am I moving forward in the correct path that the universe is kind of putting out in front of me? And really, really just kind of leaning into that a little bit more.
Yeah. I can very much relate to that. I feel like the further I've gotten in business and the more goals that I've met, the physical stuff, you realize pretty early on is pretty anticlimactic, and that the joy is really truly is in the journey, and like who you become and that type of thing. That's where the joy comes, and not in material things. So share with me, you have been in a variety of different businesses. And so you obviously have a passion you have an entrepreneurial spirit, and you have a passion for business in general, from what I can see. Share with me, what was your very first business?
It's interesting because I had to think back to this. To be honest with you, I come from a family where we were not entrepreneurs. My dad had a job. My mom stayed at home until we were teenagers, and then she went out and pursued the career that she wanted. But to think back to this, probably second grade, I literally was making back then, and this is going to date me, and people are going to think it's funny. Hacky sacks, if anybody remembers what those were. I like second, third grade, I literally was like sewing them and selling them at school. It's crazy. And then I basically, I took, as I got older, I took a lot of business classes in high school. I will say that kind of grounded me. Public speaking classes are my number one thing. And then got into, after college, I actually worked for Super Value, which owns Cub Foods, Hy-Vee's, different places like that, and was the human resource director. After that, I thought, why don't I go get my insurance license? And that's kind of what kicked off my real big entrepreneur. And I ended up acquiring an agency that I was working for. So that was interesting.
Yeah. So your first stint was, so I mean, early on you had those entrepreneurial, aptitudes when you were young. Um, I can relate. I have some really funny stories, which I will maybe share in a little bit here. But so then your first, go from a business ownership standpoint then was an insurance agency, right?
Yeah, yep. I jumped in and I literally sent my resume to the insurance agency that was in the town that we were living in. And I took a gamble and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to see if they're hiring. And they said, yeah, your resume looks great. We want you. So I was actually in that insurance agency for about 6 months, and the owner of it was a older gentleman who was actually looking at making an exit. I did not think that he was going to offer to me to buy it and buy the building that I was in. But yeah, that was really interesting. I guess I would say too, tying in with that insurance business during that time too, is kind of when we started like flipping houses and renovating houses. So that would be kind of both key
Okay.
parts in there. But the insurance industry was my first, I guess, I would say gamble. I definitely gambled on that
Yeah.
one, and it was very successful, and I actually learned a lot from doing that. So
Yeah. I think it's fascinating. So then how long ago, so you sold that agency. How long ago was that?
So I ran that agency and actually built up the book of business, and I actually acquired other books of business in that time too. So it was in Minnesota and Wisconsin, had different offices, and I ended up getting sick. I had cancer, and we were struggling through treatments and trying to figure that all out. And I had to make the really hard decision in 2014 to sell the agency. And it was because I couldn't be the day to day operations in there. We had employees, but with what was going on in life, I just couldn't be that face of the company. So I did have to make that tough decision to sell it. And it ended up working out. And I take all of those experiences and I fold them into even what I'm doing today. But insurance has changed
Mm-hmm.
drastically from what I've learned from you. Yeah, it's an ever changing industry, just like anything else.
Yeah, more so now than I've ever seen it. And I'm in my 24th year in insurance right now, and I feel like I'm battle ready after that many years. And so and my team is, but it's definitely an environment that if you don't have some season, if you haven't been in it for a little bit, so you don't have perspective on what's going on, it's a challenge. There's no doubt about it. Um, so after you sold the agency, let's then is and then you had already been flipping homes and all of that. So once you overcame your cancer journey, then is that then when you jumped into the real estate side, or what led you to the real estate side?
No, so obviously real estate, I say I've been in real estate for about 20 years, and I say that because of the fact that we were flipping houses, obviously buying, selling, renovating, and then, knowing the market where it's at. So the really interesting thing is when we sold the insurance agencies, obviously we had some tax repercussions that it was like, well, we got to roll this over into something. Well, opportunities seem to come our way for some reason, and I have no idea why the universe puts them in front of us. But somebody said it would be a really good idea to buy a gas station. I would
Okay.
highly recommend that nobody does that because the margins are very, very slim in that industry. And a lot of the stuff that is in there, you don't make money on. So, lottery, cigarettes, gas, you don't make money on. And so it was a very big learning
Okay.
lesson for us. During that time, I was going through treatment. And I look back at that now and I say this to my family. I don't remember a lot of things from that time period because I do think your brain shuts down when you're going through a really hard thing and it doesn't let you experience that. So I look back at that now and I go,
Yeah.
how the heck were we even doing what we were doing? But we made it through for some reason. And in amongst that,
Yeah.
we owned gas station. We had a pizza place at that time, and then we had two laundromats as well. So it's crazy.
Okay. That's a lot. A lot of moving pieces when you are on a journey through cancer as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I look back going,
Yeah.
how the heck did we do that? But
Yeah. Yeah. I think I would too. Like that's complete survival mode. So let's chat on that a little bit. So when I mean, what year did you find out? How were you diagnosed with cancer? Talk a little bit about your journey with cancer and back to a healthy state, and then how that affected you within your business.
yeah. Um,
Businesses, I should.
businesses. So I had actually experienced it a couple times already in my life. So first on, I found out that I had cervical cancer, and we found that out because I had several miscarriages. We were trying to have more kids, and just it something was wrong, and you just kind of knew something was wrong, and it just didn't work. So had to kind of go through the emotions of going through this, but they basically had kind of given us an ultimatum and said, you can have kids, but this is going to be what it's going to look like, or maybe this just isn't the path that you should go down. And we struggled with that for
Mm-hmm.
quite a while. And we made the decision that
Yeah.
we weren't going to have any more kids. It wasn't good for my health. And so went through that.
Mm-hmm.
The only problem with that was at that point in time, they would not let me have a hysterectomy at that time because they quote unquote said I was too young, and that I could,
Oh,
get through it and do everything. Well, down the line, I ended up having uterine cancer from that. So
oh,
they're two
wow.
different things. And so they finally did decide that, okay, we're going to let you have a hysterectomy. We're going to go through the motions of that. So two different things. The only bad part about it is going through that, I ended up getting a liver and pancreas disease, and that's something that there is no cure for.
Okay.
And so I still live with that every day. And I've gone through the journey of finding out what works and what doesn't work. So a lot of it had to do at first,
Mm.
I was on 86 different medications every day. I had a feeding tube for 2 years. I didn't eat anything besides what was coming through my feeding tube. And what we figured
Mm.
out was I had to go more of a non conventional route of medical and become my own advocate. And so overcoming that, I did a lot of
Yeah.
food sensitivity tests. Everything that I looked at coming back into my body, I had to reevaluate and I had to change. So one of the big things I said, I found out I had an egg sensitivity. They were feeding me scrambled eggs in the hospital, and I was getting sick.
Oh my
Um,
God. Yeah.
so just simple things, but I ended up changing that, and now I would say I'm in such a better place because of the fact that I know what goes into my body. I know what makes me feel not great, and I don't have those things anymore. So instead of being in the hospital every other day and being there for 2 weeks at a time, I've now been where I haven't had that for quite some time, and I'm good. So it's changing what you put in your
Right.
body, and it matters.
It matters tremendously, and that's a journey I've been. I know not to the extent that you have been, but I know for me, just when life and business get crazy heavy, I found like a few years ago, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in this place I don't even recognize myself, and it really started to steal my joy just because I wasn't taking care of myself. And I always call it like I was on the seafood diet, like you see food and you eat the food. Like
Yeah,
everything I didn't have, wasn't doing a good job of just taking care of myself and fueling myself properly. And, for different reasons than you, that's been an area of my life that over the last 2 years I've really reclaimed. And you realize like what a gift our health is, and you've realized that your journey is far more impactful than mine. But really, um, how has what you've navigated from a health standpoint impacted your outlook on just your day-to-day life and even how you function within your business?
So a lot of it has to go to, and I'm still guilty of this now. It's something that I have to remind myself every day. Go back and really, really be intentional with what you're doing. I said yes to everything before. I wanted to be superwoman
Mhm.
to everyone. And again, it's very hard. Women have a very hard time with this. And because we feel like we have to take care of everybody. What I learned from this
Mhm.
whole entire journey and in business, I can't be that person for everybody. I have to set boundaries and I have to say no to things. Um, I am not my best self when I'm stressed, anxious, I haven't ate, I'm not putting the correct things. When I'm on the go more, it's busy season for us right now. And when I'm on the go, I have to, prep myself a little bit more to go like, you have to have food in the car, you have to have this, because I just can't stop and eat anywhere. It doesn't work for me. I'm going to get sick. So it's really honestly about time management and looking
Mhm.
at what your week is like. I know you've said it where like you look at what your week is like beforehand. The night before, I'm looking at what my schedule is like so I can plan ahead and make sure that I've got everything that I need so I can be my best self. Because yeah, no, we say I'm like
Mm.
the Snickers commercial. If I don't get what I need, you're going to see a different side to Jill.
Yeah. Yeah. I I think it's also, I mean, one thought that keeps crossing my mind as we're chatting is, it's isn't it funny how think about all the like super small things that stop people from doing what they dream or aspire to do or be, right?
Yeah,
And think about how many barriers like that you have even, ongoing with food is just such a staple. I mean, like you can't we can't go without food.
that's
um
right.
but just having to be intentional, right, with every area of your life, even just protecting your energy and making sure you are planning your food. um that would be a barrier, I think, that would probably stop a lot of people, but that is something that you have chose to just overcome and move forward. And from what I've seen of you is like you're optimistic and see opportunity in even things that are scary for others. And, so you've done a good job at really watching like your mindset, even though like you have extra barriers, I guess you could call them, or speed bumps that you have that like an average person doesn't have.
I mean, I guess I look at it from this perspective, and I say this to agents that I coach. I say this just to general people. We have choices every day. I can choose to decide
Mm-hmm.
to lay in bed all day and feel sorry for myself, or I can choose to get up,
Mm-hmm.
be productive, and the universe is giving me exactly what I need. And so you have to trust in that. You have to trust in your gut. You have to kind of lean into things. They put it in, the universe puts it in front of you. You have the choice to do with it what you want. And then it will guide you in the
Mm-hmm.
direction that you've chosen. And I will not, I've never felt sorry for myself. I have a really good example of that in my dad. My dad has been through a lot of struggles and he doesn't feel sorry for himself. So I think you can be in that mindset. And I won't say that I wasn't there, but I chose to get up and move forward with that. I don't want people to remember me like that. I want people to remember me for who I am today and being able to overcome those obstacles.
Yeah. Yeah. So, a little bit ago, when we were chatting, you talked about how during your cancer journey that you had to step into an advocacy role for yourself. And another piece that you and I had chatted about a little bit was kind of the journey that you have had in trusting and listening to your own gut And that's been a journey. I've had a different journey than you have had with like learning to trust and listen to my gut. But talk to me a little bit about what that journey was like for you from, and I'm just thinking, this is probably hitting multiple areas in your life, but both becoming an advocate for yourself as well as learning to trust your gut. Like how, what was that journey like for you?
Yeah. I think it goes back to my first gut reaction that I'll tell you that I kind of leaned into in a way. It was like flipping houses and buying businesses that were failing and getting them back
Mhm.
up and going. I leaned into it when a lot of people were saying, "You guys are crazy, and what are you doing? And you have no expertise." It's leaning into that gut reaction of going like, "I don't know, but I'm gonna figure it out." I always say one of my mentors that I listen to, and I've been to a ton of her seminars, Rachel Hollis. She always says, like, you can Google it or
Mhm.
you can YouTube it. So figure it out. And so that's kind of leaning into that. Being an advocate for yourself, honestly, that came to me from my medical journey. I
Mhm.
listened to what doctors were saying wholeheartedly until my mom and my husband pulled me aside and said, "This isn't the Jill we know. You are catatonic.
Mhm.
You are just doing what they want you to do. And I think we need to look at something different." And to be honest, I shouldn't be sitting here today for multiple reasons. But one of that being like they were leading me on a very bad path that a lot of people go
Mhm.
down, and it's a really hard struggle. And I got out of that path. And I said, I'm not going to be that person. But it was learning to be your own
Mhm.
advocate and kind of standing up for yourself and going like, I don't know anything about this, but I'm going to start researching it again and leaning into it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what pulled me out of that. But from then on, to be honest, once I got my gut intuition, I can feel, and I have so much intuition around it now that if something's not right, I'm like, nope, not doing it. It's crazy, but it's true.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because I just had this same conversation earlier today, but I think in a lot of different areas in life, uh, I think oftentimes with our health, especially, we're almost taught or discouraged from following our gut with things, and taking your power back and learning to be an advocate for yourself in not just in that arena, but everything else is a huge step. And that's I yeah, that's amazing. um and I'm glad you're here.
Thank you. I am
I
too,
have
every
had
day.
I've had also a journey with just learning to trust my gut early on in business. I felt like if I had a um if I had a pull towards something, or if I knew something but I didn't know why I knew something, I knew I was supposed to do something a certain way, or join something or sign up for something, whatever it would be, whatever decision it would, I would always feel like I needed to substantiate it or justify it. And I really think I got in my own way a lot,
Mhm.
versus just sometimes allowing myself to be like, okay, I'm really being pulled in this direction. And as long as I'm running it through, my core values, and just, it's not like wrong, but just like trusting that, like, we know our next step. Like, you might not know your next 10 steps, but if you just, take your next correct step, and just kind of trust the process. You don't, there's never a roadmap in business. Like, you can plan all you want, and I always say the best way to make God laugh is to tell him your plans. Like, you can make all the plans that you want, but it's really just the beauty is in just taking that next step, making a decision, moving forward, and what the next step is, and then trusting yourself. Because there's more than one way to do the same thing, but there's not more than one me or one you. So our own individual, like, guts are they're there for a reason. And I really think, you know, I, we need to be leaning into listening to our own selves.
I'm just going to elaborate on that a little bit. What I always tell, people that I am coaching is, I do have stuff running through my head that I have to silence. I have to, there's things that from my childhood, and I had a great childhood, but there's things that trigger me. I was not the skinniest kid growing up. So I was told, you're not like your sisters, or, you're the fat kid, and something's wrong with you chemically in your head because you look that way. Those are things that are in my mind consistently that I have to silence. And I have to say, no, I am better than that. And no, I don't believe that. And I feel like when we go through things, we're trying to prove something. And the crazy part is that finally going through my medical journey, I'm not trying to prove anything to anybody anymore. I'm just trying to be me. And that's where life has started to shine through, because I'm just me, myself, to anybody I meet. I'm no different than I was years ago. But you have to go with that. And I think you learn that with age.
I definitely agree with you. Just finding, like, as the older I get, the more comfortable I am in my skin and the less I care about other people and their opinions of me, as long as I'm staying true to like my belief systems and what I believe is true. Kind of like a small segue off of that is we went on a family vacation in June, and we went to, part of our vacation was at a water park. And I have always just been like, oh my gosh, I don't want to go in a swimsuit. I don't want to, like, it's just uncomfortable. It's always been uncomfortable for me, for whatever reason. I'm hard on my own self. And it was so funny because this was the first time that I went, and I was like, I'm wearing the swimsuit. I'm not wearing a cover up. I have my hair in braids. I'm going to run around and I'm going to go on I'm going to go down the water slides. I'm going to do all the water stuff that I feel like doing. And I don't care what people think or anything. Like, I just went and I just had so much fun. And it was like probably one of the first times, and darn, I'm in my mid 40s, so it's taken way too long, but just to get to a point where I just like, I'm just here to have fun and I don't care what other people think. But it was a very, like, I took note during that day.
It sounds like there was a lot of joy happening in that time period because you got to be yourself.
Yeah, it was super fun. So talk to me a little bit about what you're doing right now in real estate and in coaching. And I know you have an upcoming speaking gig in August. So kind of where are you like now, and where are you seeing your next steps going in your career?
So now, which is really interesting because I'm a realtor, that's my full time thing that I do. But what's happened is it's kind of coinciding with, I've worked for a lot of different brokerages who, as a realtor, we have to have a brokerage above us. I've worked with different brokerages, helping them, get their brokerages to where it needs to be. So I've got that piece where I'm actually doing a lot of training through our current brokerage, doing my real estate stuff, which I am so crazy busy and blessed to be where I am with that. But to be honest, right now, after we sold all of our businesses and moved down to my husband's fifth generation farm that we're renovating now, I've doubled down, and I've doubled down in an industry that has probably said that's not wise to do right now. But what I'm actually doing is I'm going back to my old school techniques that I did in my insurance business. And we just got done buying a brick and mortar building that we're renovating, which is super exciting because, like, right behind me is, brick. And we've got hardwood floors from 1908. And just, I'm so excited to open this building in a community and be part of a community again. But what I'm doing to kind of go back to my old school is I'm sending out hand wrote postcards every day. I'm calling people. I'm picking up the phone. It's customer service. It's really honestly just educating people at this point. So doing that with clients, but also doing that with agents. And now I'm, kind of branching out and doing bigger things like speaking in front of people and doing different podcasts. And this fills my tank as far as giving me joy. And I know the universe put me here to help educate people in any sort of way. So if I can just do that, I think that's again what's kind of gravitating me forward.
Yeah. Which I think to kind of put it in a nutshell, right? Like you're using all of your previous experience, both in business and personal, the resilience that you have, that you have gained through the experiences, and you're using it as a way to positively impact people moving forward, which is just, it's like you're repurposing everything you went through to help other people, and I love the heart behind that.
Oh, thank
Um,
you.
yeah. So if you're putting your consulting hat on, if you are sharing with someone what are the key pieces to overcoming hard situations, what would you say that the keys are?
The first key I would say is, go with your gut and really go with that intuition. Second is, just being consistent. I have my day,
Mhm.
time blocked. I set a time aside to do my lead gen with my clients. Everything is in my calendar. I say to my husband or my daughter, if it's not on my calendar, I don't know right now. We need it in the
Yeah.
calendar. Um, and
Mhm.
the other thing is setting boundaries and just really, really making sure that you're putting back the energy into yourself and taking care of yourself. That has to be time
Mhm.
blocked as well. And, time can get away from all of us, but we've all got the same amount of time in one day. We got 24 hours, and what are you going to do with it? And then it's doing
Yeah.
this, networking with other people, is really important to me, and I need that. I need to have that camaraderie between people. It's one of the things I was
Mhm.
actually missing before this year, and then I started getting involved in a lot more things, and that's helped tremendously. And then I would just say,
Yeah.
you know what? Double down. Believe in yourself.
Mhm.
If something happens, you can figure out a way of getting out of it. It's not. It might be scary, but oh my gosh, I look at all the things that I look back now and go like, I don't know how I got through that. I don't even know how we got through that, but we did somehow.
Mhm. Yeah. Yep. I like your idea of doubling down and just, taking a bet on yourself. I don't think enough people, I would just are willing to take a bet on themselves. Like it's the best bet you could ever make, you know? I
It
don't know if you
is.
follow Darren Hardy a lot. I listen to a lot of his
Yes.
stuff. And he in one of his, I don't remember. I think I don't remember what teaching this is from, but he said for every dollar you invest in yourself, you get $30 back. And he suggests actually, that 10% of what you earn, you reinvest into yourself, which is like mind bending for a lot of people. And it's also, when he talks about it, he's not just talking about coaching and, you know mastermind groups and things of that nature, which is of course part of it. And like you can't just, there would be a big problem if your number one investment was on everything external. That puts you, I think, in a different category. But what I'm talking about is investing in your health, investing in, your mind, investing in the physical, and also in your, who you're becoming as a person, as a professional, the whole, as a whole person, just your development. And that's just something for me that's always been really freeing, because I feel like I've seen that in my own life. The more that I take time to grow myself and take care of myself and show up as the best me, the more I have confidence that I can like always roll the dice on myself.
Yes. And if people think you're crazy, I always say they're not in my arena. You know, this is my rodeo, and I'm the one who's showing up to the show. So I'm literally, if it's not, we have a saying in our family, it's a triangle because there's me, my husband, and our daughter. And if it's not in that triangle, those people are ripples on the outside, and they don't matter.
Mhm.
Like I love those people, but they're not in the show. And I show up and I'm doing what I have to do, but it's because I'm in the arena. And oh, it can be a lot, but it also gives me a lot of energy. So
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Well, Jill, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast today. I think of you and I think of an overcomer and a disruptor. Like you have such amazing impact and you have so much more to go. So if any of you are interested in connecting with Jill, all of Jill's contact information will be listed in our show notes. So thank you so much, Jill, for joining us today.
thank you for your time in doing this, and keep doing what you're doing because again, I'm listening constantly, and there's people in here that I'm pulling stuff from that you wouldn't think that it would tie into my business, but it does. So you're doing what the universe has brought in front of you, and I love it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.